Welcome to the show. You're listening to eSpace, Seven Sins Odyssey, with your hosts, me, Sev, and...
me, Sin.
All right, let's get the show started. Today, we are going to bring the show back around to a more gaming-centered subject. And in particular, we're going to be talking about retro gaming, older games that mean something to both me and Cynical in our own ways. And... so why don't we just get started on that topic? What kind of games do you remember playing like really early on? Like what were the big things that kind of got you into games?
Well, I don't know. That's one of those good topics, like, because I kind of mentioned that to you briefly before we started. Like, you know how you have memories that other people tell you, so they become memories in your head, and
Yes.
then like, oh, you used to do this when you were like 3 or 2.
Yep.
So I have those, but the one thing I do remember really vividly is like where gaming started for me was the N64 and the PlayStation 1, like where the memories start flooding in. Like,
Right.
and the way it started was my oldest brother. He got an N64 after working at KFC on the weekends for like 4 months, and when it came out,
Like saved up for
Yep.
N64.
And he got it the day it came out. I'm
Oh,
fairly
wow.
certain, yeah. But the thing is I never got to play it when it originally came out. But we had it for a little while, and then they started letting me play around like when I turned 5 or 4. Yeah, it's about 4 or 5 when they started.
Oh, so
letting me play.
you were restricted from playing it.
Yeah, like we had we had 3 controllers. There was a controller for each of us that played games, me and my 2 brothers, but I wasn't allowed to play.
Oh. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is. And I didn't really know how to work the TV well enough. Like, I didn't have an interest enough to, like, try to figure out how to do it when they weren't home. And it was in my brother's room. So I didn't, like, really care too much to kind of get into everything like that.
Right.
But the one...
So when you did start playing it though, did it like kind of like open up this whole new world for you?
The first game I ever played was Donkey Kong 64 multiplayer.
Yeah, you've talked a bit about that one.
Yeah, dude. And I think that's why I love shooters to this day. Like that game has...
Oh, because of like the multiplayer?
Yeah, I never played a single player until I was 14 or 15.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That was one of the game, like growing up, gaming's always been a social thing. So that's the first thing I remember, like where it was every single day of the summer of my 5-year-old self, I played that every day. I learned how to get good with Chonky and his pineapple gun, the peanut shooter with Diddy Kong. I knew how to use like everyone super good. I knew whose melee attacks were the best and how to get around them and stuff like that. And that was the first experience I had with like really playing a lot of games. But my first memory of like a game that kind of just like blew my mind in like a cool way is I only got to see about 15 to 20 seconds of it, but that like stuck with me forever, that games are cool. It is a PlayStation 1 classic game called Bushido Blade.
Okay. Now, yeah, you had mentioned this to me earlier. I had never heard of it. I still think to this day I'm not really aware of that game.
Yeah, it's like a Tekken. I wanted to call it like a Tekken knockoff, but like looking up reviews, dude, this game is like it has a 8.7 10 out of.
So it's actually a legit game.
Yeah, it's critically acclaimed, and it's a pretty cool game.
Well, yeah. Here's the thing. Oh, sorry, let me cut you off here a
ahead.
second, just really briefly. Coming right off of the arcade scene, you had games. I think Virtua Fighter was probably the first one.
Yeah.
That kind of did this 3D fighting, but then like so many games were like copies after copies after copies, and this has happened with a lot of different titles, but in particular like 3D fighters like that.
Yeah.
Because prior to that, you had stuff like Street Fighter, right?
Yeah.
2D perspective, from the side angle. But then you had Virtua Fighter do this 3D thing, and it was revolutionary. It looked like ass. Like the characters had like 30 polygons total,
Yeah.
but but it was this revolutionary thing, and then it was so popular that you had other games copy it, like Tekken.
Yep.
And then later on, when you got to console, you have stuff like Tekken, and then you had things like Soul Blade, which would later become Soul Calibur, and just so many different games that were similar that basically copied that original style. And I guess the Bushido Blade is one of them. I've never played it though. I'm not aware of this one.
Dude, you got to look at some of the gameplay, and if you get a
Uh-huh.
chance to find some of it, show everyone, dude. Like,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
it plays exactly like that. The stage is kind of really, really long. Like you
Uh-huh.
can run away from the character for a while, stuff like that. It's like a very open sort, but I only got to see like 20 to a minute at most of the game, and I remember them getting so into it, and that was like the first time I really remember video games being so cool to me. Like everyone was playing, and then they like it's very gory, so they were like, "You have to leave," because
Oh, okay.
I'm like four
Yeah.
years old,
Yeah.
and I remember them closing the door behind me as I was like walking away.
They pulled a Godfather. You were just standing in the doorway. And
It just like
they just shut
slowly
the door on you.
closes.
Yep.
But
All
yeah,
right, I
that
got
was
you.
and then like I started playing racing games like it's a really old school crappy game called F1 Grand Prix.
Okay. All
But it
right.
was one of those games that my brother had gotten from a friend. And it got really great reviews, but it wasn't like a great game.
Mm.
It was one of those the first racing simulators like that where you could go through like Monaco or actual real Grand
Right.
Prix.
Right. Right.
That was kind of cool because like you get to see things you had never seen.
Yeah, like different locations and stuff like that. They had each level kind of had their own theme.
Yeah, and so I guess like with my memories, the N64 is like really what opened that up. Like that was what kicked open my gaming eye there. It just like completely opened it to like video games. They're awesome. Like,
All right, I got you.
yeah. What about
So pretty
yours?
cool. My first experience.
Yeah.
Oh boy, this is gonna go back a while. Yeah. My first experience with video games was my family originally had a computer way back in the early '90s, and I'd say maybe about 92, 93, we had this DOS computer.
Oh,
Are you familiar with
yeah.
DOS at all?
Yeah, definitely.
So, there's a couple streamers I watch that do like play like DOS games, and they just look terrible. But that was my first experience with games. Personally, was playing on the computer actually. So I guess originally I'm a PC gamer,
Wow.
maybe.
By birth.
Yeah, yeah. So I grew up playing these DOS games, and I couldn't even tell you the names of them. I was really young at the time, like really young, like 2 or 3, um, and I knew what they were. This was before I could even read, because with DOS computers, it's not like an operating system that we have nowadays where you could just like click on stuff.
No, you had to type commands.
You had to type commands in, so you had to type a command to get to the game. And I remember one of the games I loved was Pac-Man on DOS. so so I really wanted. I remember really wanting to play Pac-Man one time, and the only one who knew to do it was my aunt. So anytime I wanted to play Pac-Man, she would always go over to the computer and type in, I guess, Pac-Man or whatever the command was, to boot it up. And I remember sometimes when she was leaving or something like that, I'd ask for her to write down on a piece of paper the command, because I didn't know what it was. I didn't know. I probably didn't know how to read. I was so young. So she would write down, and I would type it in, and then boom, I'd be playing Pac-Man.
Dude, that is awesome.
Yeah. So like really really old stuff. There was a couple other games. There was a racing game that I liked on there. Like I said, these DOS games are so damn old. They would be like atrocious by even like NES standards probably. But
You're like, oh God.
yeah. So, but there was that, and then there was actually like a shooting gallery game where you like shoot like people in like a Western scenario. And I used to love that one. I thought that one was great.
That sounds kind
So
of fun.
yeah, and I'm surprised that I was allowed to play that. One of my favorites, one of my favorites was a game called I might get the title wrong, but I think it was called Space Goose.
Okay.
It's I think it's a DOS only title, and it's like you're in space and you're flying through, like, I don't know, a Death Star or something. It's like this big technological landscape, and you're just like dodging stuff. And there's no way I could have even gotten past the first level in that game. I've since looked it up,
Yeah.
and that game is apparently like one of the hardest like DOS games ever. So, and I've actually replayed it. I got a DOS emulator to try and play it, and it really is. It's really hard.
You're
So
like, no lie, it's pretty freaking
yeah,
hard.
so I do remember like going through like various scenarios in that game when I was a kid. So I don't know how I was doing it, but I was apparently playing one of the hardest DOS games like ever brought into this world. But so I mean that's kind of where it started. And then for console gaming, the first console I ever played was a Super Nintendo.
Mm,
And of all places, I think the first place I ever played one at was at a dental office.
really?
Yeah, like in the waiting room, there was a little waiting room that they had for kids before they were brought in for whatever. And there was a Super Nintendo there that they had set up, kind of like a kiosk, like at like how they used to do back in the day at like Walmart or Target or something like that.
Yeah.
Or they'd have a setup with like a TV and then like a hard wired in controller. So they had something like that, and I think the first game I ever played was Donkey Kong Country for
Really?
the Super
That's a
NES.
good
Yeah,
game to
for
play,
console.
dude.
Yeah, it's a really good game to get started off on for sure. So I think that's where it kind of started with consoles. Like I never, because up prior to that, DOS was everything I knew. You know.
Okay.
Um, and maybe some early games. Like I remember a while after we had the DOS, we got an old Macintosh.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, so I might have played some stuff on there prior to that, but I think it was still a pretty big leap for me, like going from that to Super Nintendo and
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Country of all things. Like Donkey Kong Country was like revolutionary. How they had almost like this kind of 3D
Dude, it was
effect.
those
Yeah,
pre-rendered like well not
yeah,
pre-rendered but
yeah.
that like light backdrop to make things look realistic.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, they had like almost this 3D rendering. They were still sprites, but you kind of had the illusion of that. So to like jump from old, computers, DOS and old Macintosh to that was like astounding, and I was blown away when I was a kid.
Oh
I
yeah.
wanted to go to the dentist so I could play Donkey Kong Country. That's how much. that's how. That's how much it impressed me.
I
Like
bet.
it's like, oh yeah, yeah, I got some cavities. Sure, let's go to the
Oh,
dentist's
my
office.
teeth hurt again. This is your fifth time.
And I remember, yeah, and the day they took that Super Nintendo out of there was like the saddest day. I never wanted to go to the dentist again, and I haven't.
You're like that was the last time ever.
Yeah. No, I've gone to the dentist since then, but it's not as fun as it used to be.
No, it's
No,
not.
no. So yeah, so from then on, I just gradually got more exposed to games. Super Nintendo, I was definitely in that kind of era
Yeah.
where that was really big. I don't even remember, any of the hype building up around like N64 and PlayStation at the time. That kind of passed me by. I just remember for like a long, long time, just Super NES, just all these Super NES games. I had friends that had it. I used to go over to their house and play the games and stuff like that, and that's what we do like all day long, and through the night was play Super Nintendo until I finally got my own. And the first game that I ever got was probably like the worst game you could ever get, which was it was a movie tie-in game. It was Jurassic Park
I
for the Super
vaguely
Nintendo.
remember playing that at your place.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So there was a yeah. Sometimes we'd still bust out the Super Nintendo, and I probably had that, and we probably tried it out. But yeah, you remember that? It was like the top-down view,
Yeah. They
and he
ended up
had like a.
remaking that on the Game Boy Color, didn't they?
I think there was a port for that. Yeah, there
Yeah.
was a one for the Game Boy Color. There's probably one for like the Game Gear, like Sega's stuff. So, but yeah, that was the first game I ever got. It was Jurassic Park. I loved it. But since then I've played it, and it's like really not that great. um, Yeah, I don't know. It was okay, I guess. You couldn't save though, and it's a long game. So if you want to do a playthrough, it doesn't even have like codes. So you just have to do it in one straight playthrough, and
Dang.
that's like a 15-hour game, like to get everything. It's nuts.
That's
And then
the
there's like puzzles and stuff. Yeah, it's bad. And then the payoff, you don't even get anything. You literally just see a map of the island, Isla Nublar or whatever it
yeah.
is, and it's just the map of the island, and it just zooms out, and that's it. That's the end of the game.
I
And
think
then
we had this
it goes back to
discussion.
the title screen.
I remember you telling me that. I'm like, that's so
Yeah, I probably did because I was so
dude.
pissed off.
That is so unfulfilling of an
Yeah,
ending.
I know.
They should do that now. Could you imagine
Oh my god, yeah, can you imagine the outrage?
people
Like a
kind of now
major
just get
game.
mad over like not getting trophies for everything,
Yeah, you thought like Mass Effect 3 was bad, like the
right?
ending of that game.
Where they
What
had
if
to
it
go
was just
back, fix it because people were
yeah,
complaining.
right. Yeah, they added like these like little story bits. Yeah, there's no doing that with Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
You just zoom out of the map and boom, you're back to the title screen. You're like, oh,
That shows us how
oh,
soft we've gotten. Ah,
maybe, maybe so, maybe so. But yeah, I mean, ever since I think Super Nintendo was what really kicked it off for me, even though like I had the DOS and everything. So I mean, I guess you could say that like I really got into games attributed to that, but like Super Nintendo was like really where it was at for me, and that's when after that I started getting other things. I had my PlayStation, my PS2, N64, GameCube, Xbox, PS3, Wii U, PS4, everything.
yeah,
Except for like some Microsoft stuff, but that's a totally different thing. So,
yeah. That we
I
didn't
don't want to
want to
get
talk
we don't
about
want to get into
that.
that. So,
I think
uh,
PlayStation 1 was like the most revolutionary console ever, though.
I think it did kick off like a lot of different things. I had a lot of great titles on there.
Yeah, you just couldn't go wrong.
There was a lot of good things on there. And I got a lot of good memories playing a lot of old games on there. Spyro was a big one for me. Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah.
Later, like stuff like Metal Gear Solid. Those would become like big influences later on. But yeah, a lot of those consoles. I'd say I probably got into it the most in Super Nintendo, and then like PlayStation. So
What
that's
would you
just
say is like the best console that you've had, like at any time period where you've the most fondest memories, like the best just time having played comes from what console?
PS2. I
Really?
think I think a lot of people agree that the PlayStation 2 is quite possibly the greatest console ever made.
Yeah, I would honestly, while I agree, my greatest memories came
Hmm.
from the GameCube, which was in the same era,
Yeah,
but
that was the
just
same
like the more
generation.
family friendly version. Yeah,
If you compare my GameCube library to my PlayStation 2 library, I would say quadruples my,
really?
and as far as quantity goes, quadruples the amount of games I have for the GameCube. I like the GameCube. There was a few games on there, but I mean, I feel like similar to like the N64, there just like wasn't very many titles for me.
Yeah.
Where I felt like PlayStation 2 was kind of like the Super Nintendo of its generation. Super NES had tons of exclusives. It had tons of third-party support. It just had so many games with so many different genres, and I feel that's kind of how the PS2 was.
Yeah.
With a lot of Nintendo's consoles after that, I just haven't really felt the same.
Yeah. I can agree. I don't know though. Like for me,
Uh-huh.
I was like super happy. Like I mostly played sports games at that time, so I had every Madden and like
Oh
every
yeah, yeah.
sports game like
Oh,
that.
no, I've never been into that.
But like that kept me happy. But then like as
Yeah.
far as the games I remember owning, I had like Wind Waker. I had
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Melee.
Hmm.
I had like
Super
Super
Smash Bros.
Mario Sunshine.
Right.
Um, I had the Metroid games.
Hmm.
So I remember
Prime.
like I never beat those because they were kind of tough.
Prime. What's the second one? Echoes. Metroid Prime 2.
Yeah, I think
That
that's
one is
Echoes.
really difficult to the point where it's like almost hated because of the difficulty.
Yeah, it was stupid hard, dude. And I was like, I don't know why, because I got it used, and I was like, I don't know why I paid $13 for this. Like, this is just
Yeah. Yeah.
and like playing that or I never had Luigi's Mansion, but I always wanted that one, but I never had
Mm.
that one.
It wasn't that great.
And then I had
It was okay, but it wasn't.
oh, go ahead.
Nothing. I was just saying.
No, it wasn't that
I
great.
yeah. I remember playing it, and I remember thinking it had some cool atmosphere, and it was kind of cool for like something set in like the Mario universe. But it was like I don't know. I don't think I'd play it again.
Yeah.
And I own it. I'm looking at it right now.
GG, dude.
That's all right.
Yo, I don't
Uh,
think I'll revisit that.
no, maybe not. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of games. Another thing that was big for me was arcades. Did
Oh,
you did you ever do arcades?
yeah, I a little bit. Like we have a couple here that are like our staple arcades here,
Yeah,
and I've kind
they're
of
dwindling for sure.
yeah, that's true. That's true. And we just recently went. That was fun.
Yeah, yeah. Growing up in the '90s, arcades were still booming. I'd say that the arcade kind of culture was a lot of people think it's like in the '80s, but it more started in the '80s. Um, you had some games coming out like Space Invaders and stuff like in the '70s, and then that progressed to the point where stuff got really big, and you had like these huge like arcade parlors like in the '80s. But like I would say like a lot of the biggest ones were still in the '90s, like in the early mid '90s. You had like almost every store had arcade games basically. You go into a mall, there's an arcade there. You go
Yeah.
into a Walmart, there's arcade games. So you go into a grocery store, they have like at least one arcade game like up at the front. And so I remember playing a lot of like really awesome games. And I miss them. I really do. There was some good games that never really got ported to console or got ported very poorly to console. And it's like the only way you could get them was through the cabinet.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, boy, what's some ones that I used to play? There were some really good Konami ones back when Konami used to do games. um, but their arcade games were really good. They had, if you remember, did you ever play the Simpsons arcade game?
Yeah, dude. That game was
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, really like that one. Simpsons arcade was great. Konami did another one that was a similar play style. They did three games that were similar play styles, and they were all really good. One was Simpsons, and that was probably the most popular one. The next one was X-Men, and that one was really cool because sometimes you'd have versions of it where you could play up to like 6 people or something. It had a really big board, and it had a lot of different slots, and you could have like 4 or 5 or 6 players on at the same time. So that one was really cool. And then I think Ninja Turtles in Time was the other one, and that one was really cool too. It was a little rare, but it was a good game, and yeah, it's like you can't really find them anywhere anymore, unless you find an arcade or someone that owns the actual cabinet, which is unfortunate, but that's just kind of how it is.
Yeah. I mean,
A
with
lot of
me, I was
uh
like geared towards the shooters,
mm,
like House of the Dead.
like the light gun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played a few.
Time
Yeah, House
Crisis.
of the Dead was a big one. Time Crisis was a big one. They still have that one, I think,
Well, like
at
the
the arcade
original
we went
was
to.
more fun because it didn't take as many quarters to play. Like you
That's
could,
probably true, but the whole thing about arcades though was they were built to be challenging so that you would put your quarters in.
yeah, but I feel like it was a tad more balanced. Maybe I'm just
Uh,
looking at it differently because I had more quarters, or like I was less caring about it back then.
Maybe you were doing the nickel version.
Well, even so, I remember like going to like the mini golf place and they had
Oh yeah,
Time Crisis there and it was more, but I remember paying less and playing longer. I don't know if I was better or what, but like
maybe, or maybe it was a little easier. I don't know.
but those
It could
games
have
are
been.
fun.
Yeah, Area 51 was a big one.
Oh, where they shoot the goop on the screen.
Yeah,
Ah,
Yeah. Yeah, down here, like I think there's still like Area 51 games. Like if you go in a movie theater or something.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
They
kind of awesome.
have like lasting power. But yeah, there's a lot of light gun games, like rail shooters that were really cool.
Do you remember the Police Trainer arcade game?
Oh, that was stupid. Yeah, I do.
That was fun, dude.
No, it wasn't. Because all you did was just shoot like training dummies and stuff.
Yeah, but it
I
was
wanted to
like
shoot
tough.
like actual,
Bad guys.
yeah, like actual people and aliens and stuff. I wanted it to be, if I was paying money for it, it better be, all sorts of explosions and, Michael Bay tier stuff going on. um,
I liked it. They
That's
had like a
cool.
sniper game that was like you started off
The
in.
sniper game was fun, yeah. I remember that one. You had like a single target or whatever,
And then
but
it
it was like the
progressively
most
got
obscure.
tougher.
Yeah, yeah, that one was
And
fun.
then eventually they'll take you in the real world where like you have to snipe like people and save hostages and stuff. That was a fun game, dude.
Oh, that's the only ones I remember. Maybe
Oh,
maybe maybe it started you off like you could choose different places.
yeah, like you start off in a training sim.
Yeah, I never did the training thing.
You
I
just
always
went
like wanted
straight to
yeah.
kill the bad guy.
That's the only interesting part for me.
Must kill bad guys.
Anyway, so now that we've kind of talked about like all the stuff that we got memories of, it's like I feel like depending on what it is, it still can be a bit hard to find these games nowadays. Which is sad because a lot of these influenced a lot of games, later on.
Yeah.
They're big inspirations and stuff like that. So it's strange to me how there's still a number of games that either you can't find or places sell them or like these services sell them, but at like just such outrageous prices. I don't know.
No, yeah, that's true. We were just looking at that.
Hmm.
And dude, like before we go into what I want to rant about,
Yeah.
I
All right.
do love what Sony has done in a sense
Uh
with
huh.
that. And I know like there was games that I always wanted to play, but I just never had the accessibility to.
Hmm.
And I know a lot of newer gamers with the PS4 running into that, not owning perhaps a PS3, because Xbox for the last gen for a while was one of the more dominating consoles. So
Yeah.
they may not have owned a PS3, but they heard about games like God of War and like other just staple games like the
Hmm.
Uncharted series, and they're making those available. I think that's really cool. And even going back. So I gotta pride all consoles on doing that to an extent. Um, but it just kind of makes
Right.
me disappointed that you have to pay like $10 for a game that we all know should not be
Hmm.
$10 on the
Well,
market.
I mean, yeah, you bring up games like God of War and Uncharted for Sony's lineup, and it's like okay, they have HD release versions, and that's almost something else entirely. But I mean, it's still kind of odd that they would re-release these games so many times because a lot of these series have been released not only once but like twice in
Yeah.
HD formats. And it's like, how many times are they going to release these? It's almost like they're trying to make a quick buck, basically, is what
They
I'm
did that
what
with
I'm
Metal
seeing.
Gears a little bit too, I've noticed.
They did it with the HD collection, but then the Legacy collection had like a bunch more stuff, so it was a little different. I'm more talking about things that it's like the same thing, just re-released
Okay.
like in the same package or the same game like re-released in HD. One of the most ridiculous ones I remember was okay, PS3 big game that came out, Naughty Dog, was Last of Us. Okay,
Oh.
not much later. I think it was like 9 months later they had the HD edition for the PS4. Now that's well and all for people that didn't have a PS3, I guess, and jumped on board the PS4 and wanted to play it and got it. But I mean, for a lot of people, and then they advertise, oh, it's got new stuff in it, so even if you had the old game, you could rebuy it. It's like, would you like really want to do it? What's the difference going to be? Like, how is it going to be so different between one version to the next? Same thing with God of War. God of War 3 had a re-release on PS4, and I think it was just that game. And it's like, why? What's the big difference? If it was the first two that were on the PS2, I guess I would understand. But why should I buy this game when I already have it on PS3? It's one generation difference.
Yeah.
Should I be spending $40-50 on a game that I played like 3 years ago.
That's very good. Yeah, it's something to think about.
Yeah, so I mean, there's that, but even aside from that, we kind of got into this thing on new games. But what about the old games that we were talking about, the ones that we liked on, Super NES and N64 and stuff like that?
Yeah. I find that that's another thing where like the prices are a tad high.
Mm-hmm.
And I find like I guess when I looked at it initially, I was
Yeah.
like, that's not that bad. But then like I start thinking about it and like I'm looking at one title here, 1080 snowboarding from like way forever ago on the
Yeah.
N64.
Yeah.
Like, who's gonna pay $10 for that?
Yeah, that's $10, isn't it? Like, why? Uh, Was 1080 snowboarding even like that popular of a game where it would like be demanding that price? Was that a staple of the N64? Like, oh man, when you think of the N64, you think of games like GoldenEye and Donkey Kong 64 and Mario Kart and 1080 snowboarding.
I would say like Cruis'n the USA maybe, because that game was always sold out at Blockbuster. No
Oh yeah,
joke. And that's
yeah.
like a sleeper game, but 1080 snowboarding, dude, come on.
So, I mean, yeah, it's like it's funny with the way Nintendo does it too. Is like every generation goes up by like $2. Like I think what is it, like NES games are $4.99 or something, and then Super NES like jump by three, go to $7.99, and then N64 goes to like $9.99. I don't even want to look at the Wii games. It's just like,
They're like
but
15.
yeah,
I'm
I
kidding.
don't know, maybe, and probably even more with some of them. But it's like, is it worth it? And here's the other thing: emulation is really easy to do nowadays.
Yeah.
Really easy. It does not take a rocket scientist to emulate. And it's really easy to get a hold of the ROMs. It's really easy to get a hold of an emulator. And it's like, you would think, knowing that a big company would try to. Now I know, they take, like, Nintendo is very trigger happy when it comes to shutting down people's things.
Yeah.
They'll take your money from your YouTube videos. They'll shut down projects that are related to Nintendo titles. They'll pull ROMs and shut down sites that hold ROMs and stuff like that. So they're fine when it comes to taking down stuff. But in my opinion, shouldn't they be trying to, like, try to get people to, okay, so we have emulation which you can get for free, but you can get an official copy for just $10. It's like, that's a little steep. If you could, okay, so you have free versus $10, boy, which one am I gonna choose from?
Yep.
It's like, the other thing too is that a lot of stuff, like with Nintendo, and I'm sorry for picking on Nintendo, any Nintendo fans out there, but these are just kind of like the worst offenders, to be quite honest. With a lot of their virtual console games, the stuff that they emulate, you can't transfer it between consoles. I have Super Metroid for the Wii. When I got the Wii U, I was thinking, oh, maybe I could put Super Metroid on there, so I don't have to bother with busting out the Wii every time I wanted to play Super Metroid. Can't do it. You have to re-buy it on the Wii U if you want to play that game on the Wii U. You can't, just because you bought it on the Wii doesn't mean you can transfer it between consoles. Sony lets you do it. If I bought a game on the PlayStation 3, like an old PlayStation game, I could play it on the PSP. I could play it on the PSP Vita. I don't know if I could play it on the PS4, but I could play it on different consoles aside from the one that I bought it on,
Yeah.
basically. So I mean, there's that, and the fact that they're charging like $5, $6, $7, $10 for these games. It's like, kind of, I don't know. It seems a little steep. If I was a company trying to discourage people from emulating, I would drop that price by a lot. And sure, you might not make enough money, make that much money as you would obviously make, putting it up for $10. But I would honestly feel like more people would buy games if they were cheaper. I
Oh,
would.
yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
I mean, that's why like Steam sales do so well for that reason.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
People
you
love
bring up a good point.
cheap-ish, bro. Like,
Hmm.
people go out of their way for even if I've literally spent like over the course of my PC gaming time like hundreds of dollars in humble bundles and Steam sales, and I haven't touched the games I've,
Exactly. Yeah.
but it's cheap.
Uh-huh. And
That's
that's
the
the
point.
reason. You buy it because it's dirt cheap. I think that any of these console companies, Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony, really should look at Valve's sort of I don't know, the way that they kind of handle things as far as their games go.
Yeah,
Sales, really good sales, really big sales around specific seasons that people can kind of catch on with. Um, Standard, like, really low competitive prices versus physical copies for like new games or older games. If it's an older game, they're not gonna charge you an arm and a leg, because they know it's an older game, and they know that people aren't gonna want to spend that much money on something just for a nostalgia trip, basically. So
definitely.
it's yeah, so it's like it's kind of weird how these bigger companies will have all these games, but then they charge so much for them, and it's like, I guess for one or two games that's okay, but if I wanted to like revisit a lot of these games, I'm gonna shy away from it just because I don't want to spend that much money overall, especially when I can't even transfer between consoles.
Yeah, I feel like it's a slight oversight.
Hmm.
Um, I think with time, it takes one person to kind of be that cavalier, one company, and then in time, I think everyone else will follow suit. It's just a gamble to who does it and how they do it the right way.
Hmm.
Um, via or be it like the means we were talking about just now, lowering the prices on some games. And if it's like a true blockbuster, like if I wanted to play Metal Gear Solid the original and I had to pay $15 for it, I would do it. But like
Yeah.
if I wanted to play something that I wouldn't hold in, or like there's games that we don't hold in as high of esteem for PlayStation,
Yeah.
and we all know it. It makes sense to make it cheap. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
And if they figured that method out, or I didn't mention it like real briefly, we've seen the streaming service kind of become a thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think I think that that could be a thing. In addition to that, the PlayStation Plus have like PlayStation Plus Elite for like an extra $5 that covers having unlimited streaming to 1,000 titles over the PlayStation family, or we having like something like that. I think that that could be really powerful, solely because it opens that it opens up that freedom for those who, because there are a lot of gamers that do prefer to have the hard copy.
Right.
But we were even just talking about with music, we found this little neat thing with the streaming service where like you can listen to different things in high quality.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it just curiosity. You don't want to invest to be curious.
Right.
And I think that that would be an awesome opportunity to expand people's knowledge on games, which kind of cements them more long in the long run. Like if they
Mm-hmm.
kind of get all these different influences and tastes. Like if you could go back and play Killzone on the PlayStation 2 through like a digital copy, and it didn't cost you anything, but you play it, and then you're like, I'm gonna play 3, and then you play that one through the same streaming service. When the next one came out for PlayStation 4, you were like, I can't wait for it, and they're
Right.
willing to invest in it. If they figured out something where they could get an emotional connection to something, I think that would be
Mm-hmm.
probably supreme.
I think it's an interesting idea, and but you know what? I think that PlayStation actually does have like a service like that almost. Maybe not quite as extensive,
Yeah,
but I know that they have a streaming service for their games.
yeah,
And then obviously they do like their free titles and stuff like that, which you can keep as long as you have the PlayStation Plus service. So there's already like these companies that kind of have.
they're getting
Um,
close.
yeah, they have an idea of it. I think that's a good point. I think with a company like Nintendo, for as rich of a library and catalog as they have,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a bad idea to do something like that.
Oh, it would be nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, I really think that something like that would be an excellent service. And okay, sure, all right. We pay money to play any number of these games. Just if you want to lock out some of them that are a little bit pricier, go ahead. Like let's say Wii titles up. You know,
Yeah.
those games aren't available for stream. Maybe like you said, on a surface that costs a little bit more money, and you can unlock those titles, or maybe just have them available for purchase for
A
around their
discounted
standard
rate.
prices. Yeah, $10, $15 or something like that, or for like the later titles that are just like a generation behind. But like these games that, and there's so many of them too. It's like a lot of people would be curious about these games, especially with indie games the way they are now.
Oh yeah,
You know,
definitely.
yeah, there's so many different, people like one big game, Undertale, okay?
Yeah.
It has really big influences from Earthbound, right?
Yeah.
So people have been like going nuts over Earthbound. Like recently, it's been trending a lot more just because of Undertale.
That came out in like 90 something, right? Like 92 or something like that?
Like the original Earthbound?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. 94 maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
Whenever it was, but it's like, these games with the way that a lot of these indie games and these newer games that get people like hyped and really hooked on them, that get very big influences from these older games. Binding of Isaac has big influences from like The Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
People get interested in these old games and they want to play them, but you shove a $10 price tag in their face, and I guess some people will begrudgingly just say, yeah, whatever. But I think a lot of people would just say, nah, it's not worth it. I could find an emulator and I'll just do that instead.
It would be interesting to find out how extensive that library would be.
Mm-hmm.
Like from the very beginnings of Nintendo to now, if they even have, I would imagine they have every copy of every game, right? I would
Well,
think.
probably the major ones. I mean, well, obviously Nintendo would have all the ROMs for them, more than likely.
Yeah, I wonder how cost effective it would be for them to do that. Because I think
I
that
don't
would be
know.
because I can't imagine ripping every game um to a service would be that difficult, especially the earlier stuff. I mean,
Mm,
I could see it getting more complicated with GameCube maybe, but everything before that, I could see it being because it's been done through emulation. You know what I mean? So,
exactly.
so I'm like,
Yeah, the
that's
emulation
kind of
has done it.
cool to see
Uh,
that.
uh-huh.
Add more memory space to the next gen console they're coming out with, and then I think that could literally be one of those things that throws them ahead, if not puts them in conversation with like the PlayStations right now or like the
Yeah.
Xbox. That would definitely, if they wanted a way into the hearts and souls of gamers, I think that could definitely be one of the most effective ways
Hmm.
personally, but who knows?
Well, yeah, I think you're right. I feel like the older games, especially at this point in time, are really starting to, kind of hit home for a lot of people. Nostalgia is a huge thing right now. So people that want to replay games from their childhood,
Yeah.
I mean, the way you could capitalize on it. I mean, there's so many games out right now that are capitalizing on nostalgia. Doom, like a really big game that just came out like last month.
Yeah.
That's capitalizing. It's the way that game was developed was to recapture the feel of the original Doom, not the survival horror stuff that they tried to do with Doom 64 and Doom 3. It's going for kind of like a blend of new style gameplay mixed with PC, the old PC Doom. And like there's so many more. I mean, it's hard to recount everything, but nostalgia pulls are huge.
Oh,
They're
of course,
massive.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
yeah. Everybody is trying to get on board. Remakes of video games, remakes of not even just like movies and stuff like that. Just pulling from like the deepest core of people's kind of pop culture, what they identify with. It's like a lot of companies are just pulling for nostalgia, and it's like um, right now would be a great time to like get all the video games that you had in your catalog that everybody loves,
yeah.
and like you said, either get them for a cheaper price or maybe have like a streaming service or something available where you pay a little bit every month and you have access to all sorts of games, because chances are you play it once and that's about it for a lot of people, I would think.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't want to pay $10 for something that you're gonna play once.
Exactly, dude.
Yeah, it's kind of dumb. And like I said, especially with emulation available and how big it's gotten and how easy it's gotten over the years, it's like you don't. Yeah. It could be done a lot better, but And I wish it was done a lot better. I would actually, pay for games instead of emulating them.
We'll have
In
to
some
have a
circumstances.
meeting with Nintendo.
Yeah, I think they should contact us and get our opinions on this.
I'll contact them.
All right, yeah.
Kick down the door.
I'm sure we could work over that new president.
I wonder how hard it would. I think I'm going into a new direction, but I wonder how difficult it would be to like do that. Like, just at least sit down with them and find out why not.
Yeah, I don't know. And Nintendo's a mess these days. Who knows what they're going to be doing? I guess we'll find out the soonest at E3. But I mean, I do not know where that company is going at the moment. It's just a gamble. Like I said, sorry to pick on Nintendo, but they're kind of like an easy target right now.
I think it's because we're so emotionally drawn to them, you know.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of
like
we have a lot of history with Nintendo. I mean, I got a lot of history with Sony too, but in my opinion, and I'm not a fanboy or anything. I just want to get that out of the way right now. But in my opinion, it seems like they're doing things a little bit better. You know, some of their titles aren't exactly cheap, but they do have sales. Nintendo rarely has sales, and if they do, they're like 12% off or something.
Yeah.
Like something that like equates to like $1 or like 75 cents off, and it's like, really? That's it.
That's the best you can do.
Yeah. Like I think when Smash Brothers came out, they had all the characters that were in Smash. They had the games that they were rooted from on sale, and they were not cheap. Like it was like $1 or $2 off. It was like, oh well, never mind then. I was thinking about getting it, but I wanted to get Super Metroid, but you still want $10 for it. It's like, it's all right. I'm good. But yeah, I think unfortunately I do not have any experience with Microsoft, so I don't really know where they're at with their kind of like their backlog and their online services for games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I know Sony, not always great, but there is an effort there to kind of compete, with Steam. They have flash sales, they have holiday sales, and sometimes stuff goes really cheap. Like I bought PlayStation games on there that I still haven't played, but I got them because they were cheap because it was 99 cents.
You're like, I'll just do it because of how cheap it is.
Yeah, I got like Legend of Dragoon or something, which I think I only ever played like on a demo disc in a Target or something.
Back in
like 1998.
in Winslow, Arizona.
Yeah.
Like the most obscure circumstances.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember playing that game. Let me get it because it's 99 cents. I haven't played it yet, and that was like 2 years ago. I think I got one of the 3D. No, it was a 3D Mega Man spin-off. It was the Tron Bonne one. That one was 99 cents. I just got it because I know it's a rare game physically. Like if you try to get a physical copy, it's like $100.
Really?
Yeah. And they had it available digitally for like 99 cents, and I'm like, heck yeah. I haven't played it yet. So
I like how it goes to I haven't played it yet.
so I mean that's the thing though. It's like, the games are so cheap. And granted, it was a sale, but I mean, I've never seen a Nintendo sale go to 99 cents for a game. But it's kind of that thing though. You have something that's a reasonable price. It catches a bit of interest, and yeah, I'm gonna buy it. But if it's if it's like over $5, I'd say for like an old game that's maybe not so great. Nah, I think I'm good. If I really wanted to try it, I'll do it through emulation. But that's just my opinion.
I don't think I could have said it better myself.
Okay.
Like I'm like, dang. So final thoughts. What do you feel like Nintendo could do? Like,
honestly, I just feel like they have the games.
Yeah.
Obviously, they have the games. Just make them cheaper. Make it reasonable.
and add more, because they only have like 170 games, and that's over like 4 different. That's something I don't like. Like, come on, guys, you're being stingy with that epic library. Like,
they probably got all the main ones, but I mean, I'm sure that there's other great games.
Even the crappy ones are fun to play. Like, honestly,
yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
So just dump it all into us.
Yeah, they should. I guess if that's the case, I didn't really take a look at their current catalog.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they definitely, like I said, have a rich catalog with a lot of different games. Just get those games out there. Make them reasonable. Don't charge $5-10 for them. Make it like $2. Make it $3. I'd buy it, and then have like sales, like good sales,
like bundled packs, like the rare sale, like where it's all rare games.
Yeah. You could do bundle. You could do theme sales. They could do summer or springtime sales or stuff like that. Really, the idea is just do what Steam does.
Just copy them, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to go.
If I went on Steam right now, I could probably find a sale that's like super dope.
No kidding, yeah. I mean, they always have like weekly deals and stuff like that. Flash sales. Just do that. I mean, I don't understand why it's so hard to copy a company that's doing so well.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, Valve is rolling in it right now because of stuff like their Steam service. It's like Nintendo, they're not in the hole necessarily, but Nintendo wants to get back on top. Do what's successful. When it comes to your games, have the games there. Make them cheap. Have sales. Encourage people to buy them. Make them easily available. It's just like, that's pretty much it. I think that would be the best way to go about doing it.
That's the way you win.
Yeah, we want the retro games, man. There's no doubt about that.
Pump it into our veins. We'll fiend for it. You'll have people selling themselves on the streets for classic games, man.
Yeah. Maybe not that far, for sure. Yeah.
Way to take it to the extreme.
That's all right.
Who knows? You never know, dude.
So yeah, I think that about wraps it up. Is that kind of how you feel about the whole matter?
Yeah. I'm very like opinionated on it being stream service solely because I see that being where the future is. And my final thoughts on this to kind of wrap everything up is basically Steam is stream service. You know what I mean? Like, as much as we don't want to put it that way, I mean, you do own the digital license to the game and things like that. But we
pretty much.
If you look at where people like to have in the informational age, I've noticed like people like to have access to everything and then pick what they don't want to have.
Right.
And if we could do that with games, like GameFly was close, and that's why it was such a booming service till like they made their faults, They couldn't get in with everyone, but they were really doing well. Like the Netflix and that's where Netflix thrived when they got away from physical copies as much, but then started just focusing on their streaming service.
Yeah, doing a streaming service.
Because
that's very true.
People love option. They love being able to look at a million things and then just pick those 5 things they like. And for us people that love everything, that just like to soak in a million things, that would be amazing. And I think that it would be the best way to emotionally involve people into new games. And then when you do release this new title like the new Star Fox, you'll get so much of a bigger resurgence into that because they're like, dude, I just played Star Fox 64. I played the one on the Super Nintendo. I like went back and like hit that super hard. And when you bring out a new title, you're raising a smarter gamer, and I think that matters. Like with music now, we're building like the next generation of kids who listen to music have so much more than we did. Like when we had the generation of just CDs before iTunes and stuff, we had like what was around us, you know what I mean? Like we didn't know to like kind of veer off into other things because that was like expensive to do that. And we maybe had like 1 or 2 friends who like lived for music and they literally had their job just to buy random albums and stuff. But like now you can like literally pick any genre, any person and find something. And I think if we could do that with games, gaming will get better. The next generation of kids who create games will get smarter. They'll be more appreciative of the past because now we're kind of breeding that generation that kind of just looks at like, okay, how great are the graphics? Do they push the envelope? Do they do this? Oh, that wasn't great. And we were kind of joking about it with like Mass Effect, but it's kind of true, like we've gotten spoiled. But if you go back and play like Mappy or like these really old like obscure games that weren't super great, but then you look to see where that series is gone and you built that connection, then developers will even work harder to stay true because they know that like, so that's why I'm like, if you can figure out a way, even if it's not a streaming service, but like you said, make the prices really cheap so that people have an opportunity just expand their knowledge. We want smarter gamers. And I don't mean like in the sense of like intelligent, just knowledgeable. Like
Yeah.
we want knowledgeable gamers. I think that's what we've been chasing forever.
You definitely don't want to lose out on a lot of these past games.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be a real shame just to base, a kind of experience with video games solely on what's out in the now.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the greatest games that are coming out right now, again, are like these indie games.
Definitely.
And the biggest influences that the indie games come from is people that have these memories and this nostalgia for a lot of the greats
Yep.
of older generations. And that's not always the case. I'm not saying every great game is like, these indie games that are just games that are influenced from the past, but there's so much of it that there's something there.
And the ones who have like the games that have the lasting value, definitely what you said. Definitely.
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
Indisputable. Indisputable.
I agree.
So I think that's kind of where my heart is on it. But
Okay.
I think where we're at is not a bad place either. I think that appreciation I have is, even though we aren't there, there's guys like us that really do care to like really study like where things come from.
Yeah.
We're curious. Like if I play a game and I'm like, I ask you about it and you're like, oh, that's influenced based on this, I'll try to find it or play it or learn about it, because that's interesting to me. And the same with music and everything. And I think a lot of people want to do that, they just don't know how. And if major companies got involved, dude, we could see a whole new resurgence in a weird way with gaming that could just blow the minds of everyone. And like with things like VR coming out, that's definitely gonna even open up gaming to a larger audience. I think that this is like the best time to do it. Like give everyone a library to gain knowledge from, so where we're headed, we can be better prepared, So.
I got you.
And
all right,
that's my like thoughts.
Okay. All right, I got you. Well, I think that pretty much covers the topic then, but it was a fun one.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's definitely a lot to be said about it, and this is kind of going on one of our longer podcasts with the newer format, but that's all right. Whatever, I don't care. You guys can suffer through it.
And to plug all of our other links down in the in the description box, you can stream this.
Yeah, that's very true.
This could be streamed.
Yeah. So why don't you take down in the very not looked at description, and yeah, go ahead and stream our past podcasts. They're good stuff. There's good material there.
Amazing.
Just for that little plug. All right, we better get out of here before we start getting hate.
I love you guys.
All right, thank you as always. You guys are great for watching, and we'll see you next episode. So see you in the eSpace.